One of the worst things for a property manager is to wake up and find out that they have homes with damage. It must kill you. What a manager must be able to do is to be able to manage people. Show empathy, show that you care, be thoughtful, communicate well, and have some answers on what your next steps are going to be. I always tell other property managers is start building your vendor list now. Make sure you have vendors that you can rely on during an emergency and non-emergency. Something that I love to do, I love spreadsheets. A new vendor that comes that wants to work for us, put their name on the spreadsheet, I'll send them to a property. When they come back from that property, I'm actually grading them. It's a grading system. Did they arrive on time? What was their pricing like? How did they treat the renter? What was their customer service like? We want to have vendors that are just like us. Welcome to High-End Homes Handled Right. This is the Real Property Management Luxury Podcast hosted by Lyndel Johnson. Today, it's gonna be a little different than usual. It's gonna be shorter, but this is gonna be we're gonna talk about vendors. We just came out of a storm here in Houston, and one of the worst things for a property manager is to wake up and find out that they have homes with damage, and you have tenants that have no electricity and tenants that are just going through the worst possible situation. Electricity was out here in the Houston area for many homes for over a week. And as a property manager or a property owner that you have tenants, it must crush your heart. It must kill you knowing that you have tenants that are living at your house and they really can't enjoy their day to day because there's no electricity. And as an owner, there's nothing you can do, or a property manager, there's really nothing you can do to make sure that electricity is back on. And what a manager must be able to do is to be able to manage people. Show empathy, show that you care. A lot of, renters will call you and they'll be upset, and it's really the emotion of their situation, of their current situation. And as an owner that has rental properties, you're probably going through the same problem, especially if you're living in that same area. And so really what I recommend is, be thoughtful, communicate well, and have some answers on what your next steps are going to be. Now, when I say answers, these aren't answers that you just, come up with at 1 o'clock in the morning when someone calls you and tells you that, they've got shingles flying off their roof or they've got a leak in the house because of the storm. That's not the time to have answers. The time to have answers is before that. So what I always tell other property managers is start building your vendor list now. Build it now. Make sure you have vendors that you can rely on during an emergency and non-emergency. Something that I love to do is I love spreadsheets. Love spreadsheets. So whenever I have let's say a new vendor that comes that, wants to work for us, I put their name on the spreadsheet, and, I'll send them to a property. When they come back from that property, I'm actually grading them. So on this spreadsheet, you've got their name and it's a grading system. So they're being graded on, did they arrive on time? What was their pricing like too? how did they treat the renter when they went in, the tenant? How did they treat them? Were they rude? Did they walk through their house with muddy boots? Did they, what was their customer service like? And how is it when you called them? Were they happy to work for you, or did they say, hey, I just don't have the time? So I put all these points on this spreadsheet, and I have a grading system, a 5-star grading system. And I do this for every trade. I do this for all my plumbers. I do this for all my electricians. I do this for everyone that I send to a house. And by doing that, I can hone in on who is my A+ vendor. Who can I always rely on? And that's the person or the company that I know that if there's a storm and I get that 2:00 morning call, I know who's going to show up and who's not going to show up. I know who's going to be just killing it. And, it's really important to do this because not only, if there's a storm and you have to call somebody, but even if it's a normal call, a normal issue at a house, let's say a sink is leaking, and the tenant calls and says, hey, can someone come to my house on Friday at 2 p.m.? You contact the vendor, and the vendor says, 2 p.m.? I can definitely make that. I'll be there at 2. Actually, you know what? I'll be there between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. But around that time, I will definitely be there. Then you follow up and you find out that, it's now that same day that they were supposed to show up at 6 p.m. and no one has shown up yet. Then it's a Saturday, and then they finally call and say, hey, sorry, something happened. I'm going to show up now. That looks bad on you, the property manager, and that looks bad on you if you're, self-managing that property. When a resident or a renter gives reviews on something like that, they're not going to go to your vendor's webpage. They're not going to go to ABC Plumbing and say, hey, this service was horrible. They're going to go to your Google page and say, Decade Property Management is horrible. Their customer service is terrible. I had an issue with my sink and no one showed up on time. So they're not talking about your vendor. They're talking about you. So you really want to make sure that this is taken care of. So we really just love to have the best vendors possible. We want to have vendors that are just like us. It's if my goal is to have the best customer service, I want to team up with vendors that feel the same way. If I have and I feel like I'm big on, for example, taking off your shoes when or putting a cover on your boots when you go into a house, and you're caring for everything. When you pull something out to work on it, you're putting it back neatly. When they do that, it looks good on you as a property management company or you as the owner that's, self-managing, because it shows that you care about that house. And that care is the same care that you want your renter to have for that house too. You want your renter to really take care of that house like it's their own. So that's what you expect from the vendor. You want the best. But circling back to the storm, when you have that storm, you want to be able to pull up that spreadsheet. And if you have to call one of the vendors, you already know that, they're going to put you on the top of the line, or they're going to show up, and you're pulling up that spreadsheet, you're giving them a call, they're showing up, they'll go in, they'll do the job, they'll fix it, they'll give you an estimate. You then quickly get those estimates, send it to the owner for approval, and then you're on the way. It's a well-oiled machine. And that's what you want. You want this to be smooth from the time that you get the work order or the work request to the point where you then send somebody out there. Then you get, and billing, you want billing to be smooth. You want them to actually give you the invoice, and you be able to then put it in your system and send out the payments, and you want everything to be smooth. And we just talked about mentioning the invoices. Make sure when you do have a partnership with a vendor, make sure you know how the payments are. Do they want net 30? Do they want to get paid as soon as they're done with the job? Make sure that you understand what's expected as you, the property management company that is paying them or that's hiring them, because just as you are wanting to have the best vendor, they want to work for the best property management company that pays their bills on time and that actually, just communicates well with them. So it's a partnership that you really need to work hard with to make sure that you continue to grow that. And that's about it for today. Today, I just wanted to touch base on just taking care of your renters during this harsh time, especially if you're in the Houston area. If you're not, you may have some other storms that come through. But if you do, make sure you have a plan and make sure that you're ready to go. This is High-End Homes Handled Right, the Real Property Management Luxury Podcast. And thank you for your time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.